Hello, in this video I'm going to outline how I went from a newbie runner to running 2 ultra marathons in less than 12 months. If you've not seen any of my other videos, you may not know that before the first lockdown I weighed over 22 stone and decided that as the world ground to a halt, it was a perfect time to try and change my lifestyle. After losing some weight by dieting and by riding my bike a lot, I was on the lookout for something to focus on. I looked at a few sportives, but for some reason decided that triathlons were going to be the thing I was going to work towards. I thought, I can ride my bike. I used to be good at swimming as a child, but I was pretty rubbish at the running part. But hey, I thought, that's only a third of the sport. So I decided to enter a sprint triathlon at Cholmondeley Castle in June 2021, and I finished what I thought was a respectable 25th overall and 8th in class, which I didn't think was too bad for an older big guy, but as I expected, my run was terrible and I suffered all the way through it. But this video isn't titled How I Became a Superb Triathlon, so what happened to make me focus on my weakest discipline, the running? Well, two things really. Firstly, running was my weakest discipline, and for some reason I do seem drawn to the things I find hard. And the second reason is I just like the adventure of spending a lot of time in the mountains, and that just seemed much more appealing prospect to me than doing laps of a circuit to get in the distance required for various triathlons. So at that point I made the decision to look into ultra trail running. I'm currently around 15.5 stone and have now run 2 ultra trail marathons, the UTS 50 and the 45 miles of the lap around Windermere. In October 2021 I was a newbie runner and just managed to get round a road half marathon, but at that point I knew that in order not to revert back to my heavier self I would need to keep challenging myself, and hence started the journey to becoming an ultra runner. So the question was, where do I start? Like a lot of people who look into trail running, there are 2 events that stand out above most others. For me, it's UTMB and the Dragon's Back. But even I knew that I couldn't go from newbie to completing an event like the Dragon's Back in less than 12 months. So this is when I decided that a plan was needed. As I was totally clueless, my first job was to find a coach. To be honest, this was easier said than done when you know absolutely nothing about the sport. This is when the internet is both your friend and your enemy all at the same time. I did a lot of searching. I was on Google all the time looking at running clubs, face-to-face coaches, online coaches, people using various tools that were unfamiliar to me at the time, things like Training Peaks. So for my lifestyle with 2 kids, I needed something that was going to be flexible, so I decided to go with the online option. This again was another rabbit warren of options, and again, like everybody else, I turned to Google and started looking online for coaching. Looking at things like services that people offered, the experiences the coaches had, and had they trained successful athletes in the past, had they competed themselves. And so I emailed a few coaches. Some never returned my messages and others were very slow getting back to me. And as I'm a bit of a stickler for quick response times, I kind of ruled those guys out pretty quickly. I finally started working with Brennan from High Peak Running. I'll put the link in the description below, and I have to say I could not be more pleased with the way things have gone. Brennan has been amazing, setting training weeks that have pushed me out of my comfort zone but were still achievable, and he's always been there to offer any advice that I may need or answer any of my questions. And to be honest, I've asked some pretty vague questions like, what shoes do I need? Should I have a rucksack or a running vest? in the winter? Should I be running in tights or shorts? He's helped me with all those questions and things like what to eat when running and training. And to be honest, it's not an understatement to say that Brennan has been instrumental in me being able to hit the goals that I set for the year and then being able to do these two ultras. And I have every confidence that he'll help me continue the journey next year with some of the things that I have planned. One thing I'd also add is if you do use a coach, and I'd highly recommend that you do, you need to trust them 100%. There's no point paying for a coach and then doing your own thing anyway. This may seem like an obvious thing to say, but there will be times when you think, oh, you know what, I can miss that workout, or sometimes you get impatient and you want to run before you walk, so you add an extra 5k onto your run or extra 10k onto your bike, but you need to stick to the program. And if you have any doubts, discuss them with your coach and see if the process can be modified or change a few sessions if necessary. So I've decided I'm going to be a trail runner, and I have a coach now, Brennan. In our first call, I said I want to do the Dragon's Back, but I understood we'd need time to work up to it to make it happen, especially as I'm 44 years old and I have no history of fitness or trail running. So from this we agreed to take each year as it came and see how I responded to the training. This being the first year, we set the first event to walk towards is the Copper Sky Trail. That was in Wales in Snowdonia, and this was on the 7th of May. So I had 7 months to train for a 24-kilometre event with about 1750 metres of climbing. The training in the event went really well. I finished about 40th from 85 people and 5th in my class. I think the main reason this went so well is because I'd spent a lot of time training in the mountains. I'd recce'd the route probably 3 or 4 times, so I knew what I had to do and where I had to do it. So following on from that initial success, we decided to plan the rest of the year. I wanted to progress, have these stepping stones to the ultimate goals. So I entered the UTS 50, which was 50 kilometres and 3,100 metres of climbing, and it was just 2 months after the Sky Trail. So I was doubling the distance and the climbing. This was tough, and by the end of that event I was absolutely ruined. But I finished 337th out of 457 starters. Again, I was happy with the result, and I'd managed to step up the distance and I'd completed my first ultra. So after some serious recovery, I started to prepare for the next event I had planned, which was the lap around Windermere. This was further again, it's 75 kilometres, but the terrain was easier than in Snowdonia, and with only 2,500 metres of climbing, I was confident I could step up that distance again. I finished in 12.5 hours and again was absolutely ruined at the end, but I was starting to think that that was a good sign, as it meant I'd put everything into the event. So what were my takeaways from this year? The 3 aspects for me were: trust the training, trust your coach, and believe you can do it and build up gradually to your targets. You will have some very dark times, both on the event and in training, and you will want to give up and quit. But in those moments, just go 1 more kilometre or 5 more minutes. Just try to get to the next aid station, but do everything you can just to keep moving, no matter how slowly, and eventually you will get there. So what's next for me? Well, originally my idea was to do the Dragon's Back next year, but after this year and talking to Brennan, I still think that's a little unrealistic. So I'm going to go for another year's training and enter the Dragon's Back for 2024. I'm aware of trying to hit that balance between being fitter and more prepared, but at the same time getting older and older every year. I may not have the time that a teenager would have to do this. So my number 1 goal for next year is to step up again and do the UTS 100 So now everything, the training and my preparation is geared towards that. I've already started the training, looking to build the base over the winter, but I'll keep you updated on what I'm doing and where. If you've made it this far, if you could give the video a thumbs up, as I've been told that will help others see the videos that I put on YouTube. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below and I'll get back to you. And hopefully I'll see you next time, which will probably be a training run for my first recce of UTS 100. Cheers guys, till next time.